Glenys Wilmot, Labour MEP for the East Midlands. Some more cuts in roaming charges, those costs that you have to pay using your phone when you're abroad in Europe. What do you make of them?
I think it's excellent. We've been cutting the cost of roaming charges since 2007, so they've now cut by about 80%. So that's really good news for people going on holiday, but it's good news for business as well, because we should be encouraging the single market and people to use telecommunications if we want to increase jobs and growth across Europe.
And one of the highlights this time round seems to be so-called data roaming, so using the internet and email on your phone, a very large cut this time round. Is that something that's going to be particularly significant, bearing in mind we seem to be using our phones more and more for that kind of thing?
Yes, everybody relies on their phone for data these days, and we've now got a cut of 55%. This is all from the 1st of July, so we're very pleased about that. But we have actually voted to ensure that we scrap roaming charges altogether from December next year, and hopefully we'll get agreement from various countries to do just that, because I think that's beneficial for everybody.
And I'll ask you in a second about kind of the longer term, but in terms of these cuts that have gone on over years, I mean, there's been so many stories about, you know, what they call bill shock, people coming back from the holiday and so forth and finding these very large bills. Are we now seeing an end to that kind of thing, perhaps in your mailbag and elsewhere?
I think so. I think it was unfair that people were going abroad using their phone just to phone home and check everything was all right and then get these huge bills. We've put an end to that. We told the phone companies to do it voluntarily and they didn't. So we've made sure that it's been done, and I think that's good for consumers all across Europe.
And as you mentioned, longer term, the objective is to now get rid of roaming charges altogether. How realistic is that going to be to sort out the kind of behind the scenes, the technical details of how that can be achieved? Because it could be, I suppose, quite complicated.
I don't think it should be a problem to get rid of roaming charges altogether. We're supposed to have a single market, and so there shouldn't be any of these barriers to trade or to consumers for goods or services. So in my view, we should cut them, we should get rid of them altogether, and I think that'll be beneficial for everybody concerned.
To sum up then, what kind of benefits are there to cutting roaming charges or getting rid of them altogether for holidaymakers, for businesses and so forth?
There are massive advantages to getting rid of roaming charges. First of all, people will know they can use their mobile phone whilst abroad without really worrying about it too much and getting these horrendous bills. And secondly, for businesses it makes sense. If we're saying to businesses you should be working across Europe, then we shouldn't be putting up those barriers to stop them.